All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into something I know a lot of you are curious about, and that's manifestation. And specifically, this idea that you can manifest your desires in just 3 days using like a specific belief system. I have to admit, when I first heard about this, I was kind of intrigued, but also a little skeptical. Like, 3 days, really? It all comes from a YouTube video that lays out this system, and like the creator is super enthusiastic. They're promising, some pretty amazing results if you follow their method. But, before we really get into all the details, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever tried any visualization or manifestation techniques? I mean, what was your experience like? Did it work?
Well, I think it's totally natural to be curious about manifestation. There's something, just inherently appealing about this idea that we can shape our reality through our thoughts and beliefs, right?
Totally. So let's break down this 3-day belief system and see what it's all about. The core idea, as the video explains, is that our thoughts actually create our reality. And they use this analogy of a cosmic restaurant. Our thoughts are like the order, and the universe is the chef, like cooking up our experiences based on those thoughts. It kind of reminds me of the law of attraction, like attracts like. What are your thoughts on this, like from a psychological standpoint?
Well, it is a very compelling concept, and it's not exactly a new one either. This idea that, our minds can influence our reality, this has been around for centuries. Like, think about prayer. Prayer is basically a form of focused intention, directed towards a higher power. But what's really interesting is that even if we, set aside those metaphysical aspects for a second, there's a growing amount of research that's actually exploring this mind-body connection and how our thoughts and beliefs can have a real impact on our physical and emotional well-being.
So there might be some scientific basis to this, even if we don't, totally understand how it works.
Yeah, exactly. We're still in the early stages in terms of research, but there's definitely enough evidence to suggest that our minds are far more powerful than we usually give them credit for.
Okay, so how does this 3-day system actually work?
Well, the video lays out 3 key steps. And the first one is vivid visualization. They emphasize going beyond just like seeing your goal in your mind. It's about engaging all your senses. So if you wanted a new car, for example, you wouldn't just picture it. You'd imagine hearing the engine roar, feeling those leather seats, even smelling that new car scent.
It's interesting. They really emphasize making it a full sensory experience. But does that actually, do anything? Is there something about engaging all those senses that makes this more effective?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. There actually is a potential neurological basis for this. You see, studies have shown that when we vividly imagine something, our brains actually fire in similar patterns as if we were really experiencing it. So this repeated, detailed visualization can create new neural pathways. It's almost like our brains are rehearsing the experience.
So it's like we're kind of prepping our minds to recognize and seize opportunities when they arise.
Exactly. It's not just wishful thinking. It's about training our brains to perceive the world in a way that aligns with our desires,
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so vivid visualization is step 1. What's the next step?
Well, the second step is basically amplifying those visualizations with strong emotions. The video really stresses the importance of feeling the joy, gratitude, and excitement as if you've already achieved your goal.
Okay, I can see how that would be powerful. But isn't that a bit like pretending,
Well, not necessarily. Think about, just the power of emotions in our everyday lives. They drive our behavior, right? Like when we feel good about something, we're more likely to take action towards it. So by feeling those positive emotions associated with our goal, we're essentially creating this motivational force that pulls us towards it. It's like positive reinforcement on a deep subconscious level.
I'm starting to see how this all kind of fits together. So we have this vivid visualization and we charge it with positive emotions. So what's the third piece of this puzzle?
Well, the third step is what the video calls living from the end. And this means aligning your thoughts, your feelings, and actions with the reality you want to create, even before it fully manifests in your life. So for instance, if you want to manifest financial abundance, you might start feeling more generous and abundant in your current life.
So it's about embodying those traits and behaviors of the person you want to become, even if you're not totally there yet.
Exactly. And it's fascinating because this really taps into this concept of self-fulfilling prophecies. If you believe something is true, you're more likely to act in ways that actually make it come true.
That's starting to sound like it could actually work. But let's be real, changing our, deeply ingrained beliefs and behaviors is tough.
The video acknowledges that. They compare it to carving a new path through a dense forest. Challenging.
Yes. But each time you walk that path, it becomes easier to follow. And that's where this 3-day challenge comes in, right? This claim that just 3 days of intense focus is enough to shift those beliefs.
That's their claim, yes. They suggest relentless visualization, eliminating any negativity, and constantly feeling those emotions associated with, the desired outcome, all within a 72-hour window.
That sounds intense. Is there any evidence to suggest that kind of rapid transformation is even possible? Is 3 days really enough to, rewire our brains?
Well, that's a great question, and it's one we'll delve into further in the next part of our deep dive. While I wouldn't necessarily expect a complete overhaul in just 3 days, I think it's important to acknowledge the potential for significant shifts in thinking and behavior, especially when we apply, such focused effort. Think of it like building a muscle. You won't see those dramatic results after a single workout, but with regular exercise, you'll gradually build strength and definition.
So maybe 3 days isn't some magic bullet,
Yeah.
but it could be the start of a longer process of transformation.
Precisely. And that's a crucial point, because this belief system isn't about passive wishing. It's about combining inner work with inspired action. The video makes a distinction between, action driven by fear or desperation, and action inspired by excitement and alignment with your vision.
So it's not just about sitting on your couch visualizing and waiting for things to magically appear, right? It's about aligning your inner world with your outer world. But what about when things don't go according to plan? What about those, inevitable obstacles and setbacks we all face?
That's a great point. And the video actually addresses that directly. They reframe setbacks as opportunities for growth. They use a great analogy comparing life to climbing a mountain. You're going to encounter, those steep parts, maybe even slip and fall a few times, but those challenges are just part of the climb.
So it's about learning from those obstacles and using them to kind of refine our approach.
Exactly. It's about cultivating resilience and adaptability, which are, key traits for achieving any goal, whether it's manifesting a dream job or summiting a mountain.
I love that analogy. It takes the pressure off having to be perfect. It allows for the messiness of life.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that the journey is just as important as the destination. Speaking of the journey, one thing that really stood out to me in the video is this emphasis on feeling good now, regardless of your circumstances. They claim this is really key to attracting your desires.
What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's a profound point, and one that really aligns with a lot of the research in positive psychology. Studies have actually shown this strong link between happiness and success. When we feel good, we tend to be more creative, productive, and resilient, all of which can positively impact our ability to achieve our goals.
So it's not just about visualizing a happy ending, it's about cultivating a happy present. That's powerful. But how exactly do we shift our emotional state, especially when things might feel, tough?
Well, the video introduces this technique they call mental rehearsal, where you vividly imagine and experience your desired reality daily, engaging all your senses, feeling it as if it's happening right now. They explain how this can impact the reticular activating system, or the RAS. Have you heard of that?
The RAS? I haven't.
It's basically the part of your brain that filters information from your environment, deciding what you pay attention to. So by repeatedly focusing on your vision, you're basically training your RAS to notice and seize those opportunities that support your goals. It's like programming your brain to become more attuned to possibilities that align with what you want to create.
Wow, that's fascinating. It's like we're literally rewiring our brains to become more aligned with our desires.
Precisely. And alongside that mental rehearsal, they also strongly emphasize the power of gratitude. They suggest not just being grateful for what we already have, but also being grateful for what's coming, as if it's already ours.
That's interesting. It's about embodying that feeling of abundance even before it, manifests in our physical reality.
Right. And there's actually scientific evidence to support the benefits of gratitude. Studies have shown that regularly practicing gratitude can improve our mental and emotional well-being, reduce stress, and even improve sleep quality.
So it's not just a feel-good practice. It can actually have some real tangible benefits for our overall well-being.
Absolutely. And it ties back to that core principle of feeling good now, regardless of our current circumstances. When we cultivate gratitude, we shift our vibration to one of abundance and positivity, which can actually attract more good things into our lives.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, but before we wrap up this part of the deep dive, I want to touch on something that's probably on everyone's mind, and that's consistency. The video really stresses that this is an ongoing practice, not a one-time fix.
Well, it's a crucial point. It's about consistently choosing our thoughts, elevating our emotions, and taking inspired action. you know. They even use this analogy of a flywheel. At first, it takes a lot of effort to get it moving, but once it starts spinning, it gains its own momentum, making it easier to keep going.
So applying this belief system consistently is like that, building momentum over time, making it more effortless as we go along.
Exactly. And in terms of like practical strategies for staying motivated, they emphasize the importance of celebrating even those small victories, recognizing them as confirmation that we're on the right track.
That makes sense. Those little wins can really fuel our motivation and remind us that progress is happening.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good reminder that this is a journey, not a destination. We're always evolving and growing, and this belief system is simply a set of tools to help us along the way.
This has been a fascinating deep dive into the first part of this 3-day belief system. I'm sure you have lots of questions, and we'll tackle those in part 2. Be sure to stick around, because next time, we'll be exploring the final pieces of this intriguing system, including some potential pitfalls to watch out for.
You know, as we kind of dig deeper into this 3-day belief system, it's striking how much emphasis they put on personal responsibility.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's about empowerment, right? Like taking ownership of our thoughts and beliefs and actions, and recognizing that we actually have the power to create change.
Absolutely. And that can be both exhilarating and a little daunting. You know, it means we can't really blame external circumstances for our situation. It puts the onus on us to shift our internal world if we want to see those changes in our external world.
That's true. But it also means that we have more control than we might realize, which is actually pretty exciting when you think about it.
Exactly. It's about recognizing our own agency. And that kind of leads to an interesting question that the video raises. What happens when our personal growth and transformation start to clash with the people around us?
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. It's like when you start making changes in your own life and suddenly those changes can highlight areas where other people might be, stuck or resistant to growth. It can definitely create some friction in relationships.
Precisely. And the video acknowledges that. They talk about how some people in our lives might actually become uncomfortable with our new way of thinking and being, perhaps because it challenges their own beliefs or comfort zones.
It's like our growth can kind of inadvertently shine a light on their own areas of potential growth, and that can be unsettling for some people, right?
Exactly. But the video really encourages listeners not to be deterred by this, reminding us that we're ultimately responsible for our own journey, not for convincing others to join us.
So it's about honoring our own path, even if it means navigating some, bumpy terrain in our relationships.
Yes, and they even address the possibility of relationships, changing or even ending as we evolve. It's not something to take lightly, obviously, but it's kind of a natural consequence of personal growth. As we raise our vibration, so to speak, some relationships might naturally fall away, making space for new connections that align with our evolved energy.
That makes sense. It's like we're shedding old skins, making room for new experiences and relationships that actually resonate with who we're becoming. It can be a little sad to say goodbye to certain people or dynamics, but it also creates space for something, new and beautiful to emerge.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's about recognizing that sometimes growth requires letting go. And that can apply to relationships, beliefs, habits, all sorts of things. And speaking of letting go, another theme the video touches on is surrendering control.
Oh, that's something I personally struggle with. I like to feel like I have a plan, and that I'm in charge. So surrendering control can feel kind of scary to me. But I can also see how it could be incredibly freeing.
I think it's a really common struggle.
Yeah.
Especially in a culture, that often teaches us to value control and achievement. But what the video suggests is that by releasing that need to control every single detail, we actually open ourselves up to possibilities we might never have even conceived of on our own.
That's a good point. It's about trusting that the universe has a bigger plan, even if it unfolds in unexpected ways.
Precisely. They suggest that our job is to just be clear about what we want, to feel the emotions of having it, and then to stay open to receiving it, however it may manifest. It's this delicate balance between actively working towards our goals and surrendering to the unfolding of events, trusting the process,
That reminds me of something we talked about earlier, the difference between inspired action and, action driven by fear or desperation.
Yes. It's about moving from a mindset of lack and limitation to a mindset of abundance and possibility.
And that requires a lot of trust, doesn't it? Trust in ourselves, trust in the process, trust in something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely. And the video acknowledges that, building that trust takes time and practice. It's not always easy, especially when faced with those challenges or setbacks that inevitably come up. But they emphasize the importance of persistence, of not giving up, even when we don't see those immediate results.
It's about remembering that just because we don't see, like, the tangible evidence doesn't mean that things aren't happening behind the scenes. They use that great analogy of, like, a seed planted in the ground. For a long time, nothing seems to be happening on the surface. But beneath the soil, the seed is growing roots, gathering strength and preparing to sprout.
Exactly. And sometimes what we perceive as, setbacks might actually be feedback, guiding us to refine our approach, whether that's clarifying our vision or elevating our emotions or maybe taking different inspired actions. It's like we're constantly in this feedback loop with the universe, learning and adjusting as we go.
That's a really helpful way to look at it. It takes the pressure off having to get everything perfect, the first time around. And it encourages us to kind of embrace the learning process.
I completely agree. And I think it's important to remember that this belief system is about so much more than just like manifesting material possessions or achieving specific goals. It's about aligning with our highest potential, living a life filled with purpose and meaning, and making a positive impact on the world.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to the concept of mental rehearsal, which they presented as a really powerful tool for supercharging our results. It's about vividly imagining and experiencing our desired reality, engaging all our senses, feeling it as if it's happening right now.
Right. And as we discussed earlier, this practice can have a real impact on the reticular activating system, or the RAS, training our brains to notice those opportunities that align with our vision. They suggest doing this mental rehearsal regularly, particularly before sleep and after waking up, because that's when our subconscious minds are the most receptive. It's like we're literally rewiring our brains to become more aligned with what we want to create.
It's amazing to think about the power of our minds to shape our reality like that. And it's not just about mental rehearsal either. They also place a lot of emphasis on gratitude, both for what we already have and for what's coming.
Yes, that's a really important point. It's about shifting from a mindset of lack to a mindset of abundance. They suggest being grateful not just for the big things, but also for those small, everyday miracles that we often take for granted.
So it's about cultivating this sense of appreciation for all the good in our lives, both present and future.
Exactly. And when we do that, we raise our vibration and we attract more of what we're feeling. Gratitude is like a magnet for abundance.
And they remind us that this belief system isn't just about personal gain. It's about the positive impact we can have on the world as we embody our highest potential and radiate that outward.
Absolutely. They suggest that as we step into our power as creators, living from a place of abundance and joy, we actually inspire others to do the same. It's like raising the collective consciousness, like a ripple effect. Our personal transformation inspiring and empowering those around us, creating a more positive and aligned world.
That's a beautiful vision. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness and the power we have to create positive change, not just for ourselves, but for, the world around us.
Precisely. And I think that's a powerful reminder that we're all in this together, and that our individual choices and actions have the power to make a real difference.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive, from navigating relationships and surrendering control to harnessing the power of mental rehearsal and gratitude. It's clear that this 3-day belief system is about so much more than just manifesting material desires. It's about embracing a new way of thinking and being, about aligning with our highest potential and creating a life that's both personally fulfilling and beneficial to the world around us.
Absolutely. It's a journey of self-discovery and transformation. And I think the most important takeaway is that we all have the power to create the life we desire.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation, but we're not quite done yet. In part 3 of our deep dive, we'll explore the final key concepts of this 3-day belief system. And we'll address some potential pitfalls to watch out for as we navigate these, really powerful ideas. Welcome back to our deep dive. It's been quite a journey exploring this 3-day belief system. And, as we wrap up our exploration, I'm curious, what's been resonating with you the most? And what feels a little, out there?
Yeah, I think it's totally natural to have a mix of reactions to these concepts. Some of them might feel familiar, others might kind of challenge our existing beliefs a bit. But that's all part of the process, right? Expanding our understanding of what's possible.
Totally. That's what I love about these deep dives. It's all about exploring these new ideas with, an open mind. So as we kind of delve into the final key concepts here, let's keep that spirit of curiosity going. Now, one thing that really struck me in this last part of the video was this idea of letting go of the how. It's about trusting that the universe has a plan, even if it unfolds in unexpected ways.
Right, that's a crucial point. It can be so tempting to try to micromanage every little aspect of our manifestation process, but that often just backfires. It's like trying to, force a square peg into a round hole.
I can see how that would create a lot of resistance. So it's more about like setting the intention, aligning our energy with our desires, and then just trusting that the process will unfold.
Exactly. It's about surrendering control, allowing the universe to kind of work its magic.
Right.
And that can be a real challenge, especially for those of us who are, used to being in charge. It requires a real shift in perspective, from a place of striving to a place of allowing.
But wouldn't that kind of make us passive? Like, are we just sitting around, waiting for things to happen?
Not at all. It's not about being passive. It's about recognizing that we don't always have to know the exact steps or timeline for our desires to manifest. It's about taking inspired action, when it feels aligned, and trusting that the universe will orchestrate all the details. Perfect timing.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like we're co-creating with the universe rather than trying to force our will upon it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
As we surrender that control and open ourselves to new possibilities, the video even suggests that our desires themselves might actually shift. They talk about how those material desires might fade in importance as we start to prioritize things like experiences, growth, and making a positive impact on the world.
So it's not just about, manifesting that bigger house or the fancy car. It's about aligning with a deeper sense of purpose and fulfillment.
That's really interesting. It reminds me of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. As we meet those basic needs for safety and security, we naturally start to crave something more, something that transcends the material.
That's a great connection. And it speaks to this idea that this belief system isn't just about personal gain. It's about, evolving as human beings, contributing to something larger than ourselves, becoming a beacon of light for others.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected. And that our individual growth can ripple outward and inspire others.
And that interconnectedness, it comes up a lot in the video. They highlight this idea that as our vibration shifts, we might find that some relationships just naturally fall away, making space for new connections that resonate with our evolved energy.
Yeah, that can be a tough one. Letting go of relationships, even when we know it's for the best, can still be really painful. Absolutely. It's important to acknowledge those feelings of sadness or loss. But the video reminds us that, it's a natural part of that evolution process. As we change and grow, our relationships inevitably change too. Some deepen, some fade away, and new ones emerge.
It's like we're constantly shedding old skins, making room for new experiences and connections that align with who we're becoming.
Exactly. It's not always easy, but it's definitely a sign of growth and expansion.
Okay, so we've explored a lot of the core principles of this belief system. Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some potential pitfalls. What are some things that, listeners should be mindful of as they kind of experiment with these really powerful ideas?
Yeah, one important caveat I would say is to avoid falling into that trap of toxic positivity. While the video really emphasizes the importance of positive emotions, it's crucial to acknowledge and process all of our emotions, even the, challenging ones.
Right. It's not about suppressing or denying negative emotions. It's about recognizing them, allowing ourselves to feel them, and then choosing to kind of shift our focus back to our desired outcome.
Exactly. It's a process of emotional regulation, not repression. Denying or suppressing our emotions just pushes them deeper.
Yeah.
And they can actually fester and create more problems down the line.
That's such an important point. Authenticity is key, right? We can't just slap on a happy face and pretend that everything is perfect.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads to another potential pitfall, becoming so fixated on achieving specific outcomes that we miss out on the beauty of the present moment.
Oh, that's something I've definitely been guilty of in the past. Getting so caught up in chasing a goal that I, forget to appreciate the journey.
It's a common trap, especially I think in our achievement-oriented culture. But the paradox is that when we actually learn to find joy in the present moment, regardless of whether we've, achieved our desired outcome yet, we actually become more magnetic to our desires.
It's like we're sending that message to the universe that we trust in the process, that we're already abundant even before our desires manifest.
Precisely. And that sense of, inner peace and contentment, that's far more valuable than any external achievement.
That's a really powerful reminder. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive. We explored the core principles of this three-day belief system. We discussed, the importance of surrendering control and allowing our desires to evolve. And we've also highlighted some potential pitfalls to kind of watch out for. So as we wrap up, I'm curious, what are your biggest takeaways from this whole exploration?
I think for me, the biggest takeaway is just this reminder that we are all powerful creators. We have the ability to shape our reality through our thoughts, beliefs, and actions. And, while this three-day belief system offers a specific framework for doing that, the underlying principles are really universal. Whether we choose to adopt this system or not, I think the key is to become conscious creators, to pay attention to our thoughts and our feelings, and to align our actions with our deepest desires.
That's beautifully said. And as the video reminds us, this is a journey, not a destination. It's an ongoing process of growth, expansion, and self-discovery.
Exactly. And the most important thing is to, I think, approach it with a sense of curiosity, a sense of playfulness, a willingness to experiment and see what works for you.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question to ponder. If our thoughts really do shape our reality, what kind of world are you creating with your beliefs and actions? It's a powerful question, and one that I encourage you to explore further as you continue on your own journey of, self-discovery and manifestation. Thanks for joining us on this adventure.